Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 20 plus years of my life. Right now I'm in Victorville, but let's go back a little bit. How did I prepare myself to come to the penitentiary? When I got arrested with all my charges, I got arrested for robberies, for aggravated robberies, aggravated kidnapping, attempted murder, and felony in possession. What they convicted me on was armed bank robbery. And while I was waiting to get sentenced for the armed bank robbery, I assaulted a guard and ended up with another 96 months. Knowing that I'm not going to be able to escape this prison time because I stuck to the code. A lot of people, they're like, when I have a conversation with them, like, oh, at least I didn't tell. I'm like, how are you using that as like a stamp or something? Like, what the fuck else were you supposed to do? This is the life you bought into. So it was the life that I bought into. Whether right or wrong, whether you agree with it or not, I accepted my fate. I know what I did. I know what I signed up for. So when I was facing my time, I just took it on the chin. Yeah, ain't no way I was willing to do 65 years or wanting to do 65 years. But if that's what they gave me, 65 years, 100 years, or a life sentence, then that's what I'm going to do. Because for me, the biggest thing for me in this lifestyle is loyalty and honor and respect. Those that my age has done time in Utah, we used to have an old jail called Metro. And this jail is a dungeon, a Thunderdome. There's no COs around. There's no cameras around. You get put in 14, 16-man blocks. And there's 6 blocks on each floor, 8 blocks on each floor, section off, C3, C6, C9, D3, D6, D9, and you're there. The only time you see the guards if during mail, if your block got mail, visiting day, and 10 o'clock count. Other than that, when you're getting stomped out in a block, don't matter how loud you scream for your life, no one's gonna hear you, because the block next to you, when they hear you start screaming for help, they're just gonna bang on the wall and scream like there's a football game or a soccer game or a basketball game on to drown out your cry for help. And by the time the guards come, you're already a body, because when the guards come, they're not gonna pop the doors and run in there. They're gonna stand outside the bars and give you direct order, tell you stop, stop, stop. But in any confrontation, anybody that's ever been in any type of confrontation, when you're caught up in that moment, you're not gonna stop until you're forced to, whether you getting shot by beanbags or sprayed by mace. You're not gonna snap out of it. Doesn't matter how unconscious, how defenseless your victim is, you're never gonna snap out of it. Fighting my case, I had a few rats on my case. So anytime somebody come into my pod and I get a kite that this dude's a rat or this dude's testifying on somebody, whatever, I'm breaking them off. And there's individuals that's been commenting on my videos and stuff that's done time with me in Old Metro. So they can tell you that everything I say here is not fabricated or exaggerated. And at any time, if you catch me making up something, call me on it. Let the world know. If I'm not who I say I am, let the world know. But everything I put out here is raw and unedited. I mean, you can tell by my video, we just pushing a record button on an iPad and I'm running my mouth. You know, it's not scripted or anything. But I just want to take you through the situations that I've been through to prepare myself for the penitentiary. You know, while you're sitting there waiting to go to prison, you meet people that come back from prison, you know, from the USP where I was headed because of my security level. And all these stories will give you nightmares. Everything you can imagine that happens in prison as far as violence go, as far as rape goes, these things happen. You know, I always wore my hair short on the street. But when I got locked up, I decided to grow my hair. And they had a lot of people coming back that I met at court, going to court, coming back on new cases because of whatever they did in the penitentiary they were at, or they all had caught new cases or whatever. And they would always advise me, man, you should cut your hair, man. You're young, you got long hair. Man, them dudes out there, they're predators. But you know, the more I hear that, the more I was adamant about growing my hair because I'm like, yeah, somebody try me. You know, because I was never the person to let somebody else dictate how I carried myself, how I did my time. You know, right now we're in Old Metro. And in Old Metro, they had an incident where they had this white dude named Bishop. He's about 5'10", 260. He prided himself on knowing how to box or whatnot. And we was in 2C6 at this time. And at the time, you know, he's done a lot of state time or whatever. So in our pod, he was always punking and bullying the other white kids in our block. And, you know, in the county jail, we're not really segregated by race, blacks, whites, Mexican, Islanders, because being here in Salt Lake, everybody that's in the streets, we all know each other. We've all ran into each other or each other's homeboys through the course of our time, and we kind of gel and we get along. We're a different breed than dudes that come from other states, dudes that live in other areas. You know, over here, for the most part, all the races, no matter what gang, unless you just gang banging and beefing with somebody because they're from a different gang, but most of us, we respect each other as men, and we gel and we get along. Well, in this particular incident, my homeboy Pika, Samoan dude, and my homeboy Brian, he's Tongan, they got tired of this dude just bullying these white kids. So they mopped him up. Pika and a white boy was fighting, and Brian came from behind, put him in a chokehold, and hit him and knocked him out. Like I always tell you, once you're knocked out, you're defenseless. And they just started stomping on his head. They kept stomping on his head, and you have a pool of blood just up seeping from his head about maybe 5 feet in diameter. It was a lot. You know, when the trustee came by sweeping the hallway, I told him, hey, go grab us a mop bucket, man. So they grabbed us a mop bucket. I told the white boys, hey, you guys need to clean this up because this shit happened because you guys ain't defending yourself. And I'm not saying that to disrespect those white kids. They were young. They're all 18, 17, 19 years old. You know, some of them was 17 because they got certified as an adult. And they're young. And they don't know what, you know, they really don't know. They're really not prepared for their environment. So anyway, they mopped it up, swept it up. They were happy to do it because they were tired of this dude fucking picking on them or whatnot. So when the time came for trays, they slide our doors and they push the tray in. Well, when the doors open, they just pushed him out, unconscious, and laid him out in the hallway. And the COs came and picked him up, took our TV or whatnot for whatever. You know, so fast forward, they had to shut Old Metro down because it was condemned. It's been condemned for like 10 years, but they weren't in no hurry to get us out of there until they built this new jail, ADC. I think it's for like adult detention center or something like that. I'm not sure what the ADC stands for, but ADC is a more modern jail where you got pods, you got a CO in a unit, in a horseshoe, you got cameras, the unit's a lot cleaner, there's a recreation attached to the unit, and the visiting room's upstairs. Well, while we're fishing into the ADC, they just came and brought buses, load all of us up, and shipped us out to the ADC, putting on buses and taking us to the new jail. So we get in a pod, and I go into a pod with my little brother Daniel, with a couple dudes from Regs, VC and his little brother Tim. And so we're in the pod for a couple days, and I'm sitting at a table playing chess. When little man comes up and say, "Hey, the dude's outside." Well, the dude Bishop is outside of the unit waiting to come in. Well, when the dude Bishop, when he recovered from his incident or whatnot, they put him on the 3rd floor. And it was about 5 to 6 months from the time that he got mopped up in C6 to the time we transferred to ADC. But during that course of that 6 months time, he was putting word out there because I was in the block that he's gonna catch me and get me, that he had a knife this big waiting for me. You know, every time I got moved to another section for whatever incident I got, you know, everybody's like, "Oh man, you just missed it. Bishop was just on this floor. Man, he said he's gonna kill you. He got a knife like this waiting for you." And during that time, one morning, you know, they had the windows open so you can hear and talk to people from the 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. I'm on the 2nd floor at this time. Well, one morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, that's when the door racks. Because on the 3rd tier is double lockdown, where you're in where we at on the 1st floor is 16, 14-man tanks. But on the 3rd tier, they have individual cells. Then you come out to a little day room, which is about 10 feet across and maybe 30 feet long. Well, one of the black dudes that was in the unit that participated in, there was 3 of them, Bika, Brian, and this black dude that jumped on Bishop. Well, he so happened got brought into that tier on the 3rd floor. He didn't know Bishop was in one of those cells because they brought him up there at night, locked him in his cell. Well, at 6 o'clock in the morning, when the doors racked, Bishop ran him in his cell and started stabbing him up. And you can hear him screaming, begging to stop. Like I told you, that's one of the most eeriest sounds. And you can hear his scream echoing throughout the jail because there's a gym in between our tier. You got C3, C6, C9, D3, D6, D9, but there's a gym, and the gym goes all the way up. Like when we go to rec, we can climb on the roof of the supply shack and talk to each other on the other floor, or just scream to each other, you know, through the windows or whatnot. So I know this dude Bishop is serious, and he's meaning to get everybody that was involved in the incident. But I wasn't involved in the incident. Yeah, I was in there, and those dudes, Bika and Brian, they're my homies, but there was no need for me to get involved because there's already 3 dudes on them. So fast forward to us being in ADC, I'm sitting there playing chess, and little man comes up and he tells me, "Hey man, that white boy's outside waiting to come into the block." He's like, "What's up, man? What you trying to do?" And I told Daniel, because I know I'm facing a lot of time. I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I don't want my reputation to be, "Oh, I had to have homies jump in. I'm only tough because my homies around and this and that." So I told a homie, I said, "Listen, man, whatever happens between me and him, stay out of it. I don't care if he mops me up, whatnot, stay out of it. Because I know that I'm waiting to go to the penitentiary. And I wanted to be known that I fight my own fights. I wanted to be known that I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet and I'm not running from nothing. So they open the door and there's about 20 dudes that's waiting to come in. They come into our pod. Now I'm sitting down playing chess, but when the door opened, I get up. I'm still playing chess, but I'm not sitting down in a vulnerable position. I got my feet planted. I got one foot on the stool and the other foot on the ground because I'm expecting confrontation. So he comes over there, he walks right to me. He's like, man, what's up, man? I said, what's up? He said, you one of the dudes that jumped me? I said, listen, man, I had nothing to do with you getting jumped. I didn't jump you. I didn't do nothing. Well, who was it? Who was all that jumped me? Because he couldn't remember the incident. I mean, he got knocked out and he lost, memories of that time. Yeah, amnesia. I mean, when you get hit in the head so many times, somebody's stomping your head, it's hard to retain your memory. So he's like, man, who jumped me? I said, listen, homie, I'm not here for all of that. I'm just letting you know I had no involvement in that situation. And boom, he punches me in my eye. And I back up. And, when people say you see stars, like I literally saw stars, like shit was sparkling, and I'm like, what the fuck? Bang, he hit me again, right? And I'm getting dizzy. And the voice in my head is like, hey, stupid, you better do something before this dude knocks you out. So I back up and I see he gets in his boxing stance. Me, I don't know how to fight. I learned through the course of my time meeting people that knew how to box, knew martial arts or whatever, and I trained with them, picked up a little here and there. But I've never been trained to fight. I just have a heart, and I've been accustomed now telling people that all hearts and no skills is gonna get you killed. So the voice in my head is telling me, hey, you better do something before you get knocked out. So when I approach him again, I know he's gonna swing for my face again. So when he swings, I duck and I just start hitting him in the balls. I just start uppercutting him in the balls. I hit him in the balls about 5 or 6 times until he dropped to his knees. But my dumb ass, I've been watching too many WWF and where The Rock grabs somebody by the neck and rocks bottom them. Well, I picked this dude up on his feet and I grab him by his neck and I'm trying to rock bottom this motherfucker. And I pick him up and I'm trying to heave him. He's, like I said, he's 5'10", 260 plus, big old belly. And I couldn't budge him. I'm like, ugh. And then my vision changed. I'm looking up at the ceiling. He picked me up and body slams me on top of the table. Boom. We roll off the table. I hit one of the stools on my back and I end up on the floor. And like I said, at this time, I've been growing out my hair. My hair is about this long. This motherfucker sits on top of me. He's 260. I don't think I ever bench 220. I'm 130, I'm 5'5", 5'6", 135 pounds. And he's sitting on my stomach. He's got both his hands wrapped in my hair and just banging the back of my head on the concrete. And I know I'm hit. Like, there's nothing else for me. I can't push him off. He's too heavy for me. So I only did the best, the next best thing I knew how to do. I couldn't really see, so I just pushed my hand up his arm where he's holding me, found his face, and stuck both my thumb in his eye and just pushed my thumb out. And it just felt like yellow, and all I heard was him screaming. And when he screamed, I got up, I hit him a few times, knocked him down, kicked him in the head a couple times. And when I was gonna start jumping on his head like a trampoline, I got tackled by the CO. And they broke us up. They took him out the unit. They went and locked me in my cell. Well, that night, I had a mean ass headache. Like, I've never experienced. I know I got, some freaking brain damage from getting my head banged against the concrete, and I'm throwing up. I'm feeling nauseous, and it was just like I didn't know what to do because I'm not the type of person that's gonna hit the panic button. You know, in every cell you're in, they have an emergency panic button that you hit, you know, to notify the staff that there's something wrong. I'm just retarded that way. I never want to ask the guards or the cops or anybody for any type of help. And I was just sitting in there having the shakes and the shiver, and I was throwing up. You know, I think what saved me was later on that night, they brought a cellie in, and he was a meth addict that was going through withdrawals and stuff that came in, and he was like, you know, he took a look at me, you know, half my face was blackened, like I got punished. And he was like, man, what happened, man? I was like, man, I'm just having the chills and the shake and I'm throwing up. He's like, man, you better not go to sleep, man, because, you know, I heard that you have like eternal bleeding in your head or whatever, you go to sleep, you might not wake up. But he brought out a big old tray of ibuprofen and he said, hey man, take this, it's gonna help the swelling down. And I really believe that those ibuprofen that I took saved my life. But I didn't go to sleep that night because he told me not to go to sleep. But, you know, in prison, it's about respect. It's about perception. And people that are coming to you for drama, they're really not looking for a fight. They're just looking for an easy victim. So if you make it known that you're willing to fight, that you're willing to stand on your principles and the things that you believe, and you're willing to stand on it and put your life on the line on it, people is going to give you that respect and not fuck with you. And I was determined to be respected. So through the course of my incarceration, that's how I carried myself. No matter what the odds are, no matter if I'm going to win or lose, if I believe in something, then I'm on the front line. And that in itself that mentality allowed me to be able to do the time that I did, to be able to survive and to be able to make it home. You know, thank you for joining me again on another episode of Welcome to the USP. See you guys next time. We're gonna go back to Victorville.